No, I find it appalling to hear the rhetoric from the other side, the excuses being made for the individuals who are here illegally, committing acts of domestic violence, committing acts of violence against women, and trying to defeat this legislation that would strengthen the laws to help these victims. It is appalling. As a former domestic violence prosecutor and as a state legislator, we have seen this before. When we have tried to strengthen laws to protect victims of domestic violence, you find all too often those who would essentially become apologists for the abusers themselves come in and object to these efforts. And we're seeing that here today. When it comes to the Violence Against Women Act, yes, that was a bipartisan piece of legislation until the Democrats were in control of the House. And then we saw them try and amend it to make it become more of a pro-abortion, pro-trans rights. You can't even define a woman. How are you going to pass a Violence Against Women Act that actually protects women? So, yes, we stand for the original Violence Against Women Act. In fact, we offered it as a substitute. And guess what? The Democrats voted against it because they would rather stand up for the other extraneous provisions of the legislation. This legislation will protect American communities from criminal illegal aliens, create new grounds of inadmissibility and removability, and expand current grounds for aliens who commit sex offenses and domestic violence offenses. I urge my colleagues to support it because illegal aliens who commit child abuse, sexual assault, and domestic violence have no place in our country. This bill makes it clear that predators will not be tolerated in the United States. With that, I yield back.
The gentlewoman from Florida reserves. The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if our colleagues could explain why more than 200 groups advocating for women's rights and women's security are opposing this legislation. Can they explain why the groups that are on the front lines of opposing domestic violence reject their legislation as sloppy and bound to hurt the victims? That we have heard no explanation about that, and we reject the slur that they or we are somehow standing up for the abusers here when we're standing up for the victims. And they're actually going, this legislation, if it were to pass, would actually make it a lot easier for the abusers to terrify and intimidate the victims. I'd like